Today I'm going to discuss checklists, what they are, how they're used, and what's contained in them. In general, a checklist is a listing of activities that need to be completed. With respect to writing, a checklist is a listing of writing skills that need to be demonstrated. Writing checklists usually require showing competency using writing styles, grammar, punctuation, transitions, and other conventions of writing. It can be quite difficult for beginning writers to correctly write paragraphs, essays, and reports. Using a checklist is one way to help beginning writers organize their writing. In this video, I'm going to show you three types of checklists for beginning writers. In this slide, this checklist is for what I call an absolute beginner. The assignment is for the student to write a paragraph using the word plump. Some of the areas that are typically covered in a checklist include grammar, punctuation, spelling, and flow. The flow refers to how easily a reader can get into a text. While the flow involves many conventions of writing, for now, we'll relegate flow to not having run on sentences or sentences that are not clear. When students are given a checklist, they should receive a sample piece of writing as a guide. So the student will have to check off the boxes as they do the work. So as you see at the top, it says 1, I reread my work. 2, I added capital letters. 3, I added a period to the end of my sentence. 4, I can read my own handwriting. They have to check those off. Then they have to go through each section to make sure that they have fulfilled the task. Here we have a sample piece of writing by a special needs writer. You'll notice that a sample 4-sentence paragraph was made for the student to use as a reference. It's highlighted with the pink and blue arrow. You'll also notice that the responses to questions 1 to 4 met the task of the checklist I showed in the previous slide. Perhaps since spelling was not listed on the checklist, the student did not go back and check spelling. That would be the next step for this student. This student would need an updated checklist that includes checking for spelling. Making an updated checklist would be a form of scaffolding the task. So when a task is scaffolded, the student is given different levels of responsibility for a task. And after they have shown mastery in the task, a new skill is added to the task. That's what scaffolding is. In this slide, you see that this checklist is for what I called an intermediate beginner. The assignment is for the student to write a story about a child who gets her wish fulfilled. On this page, the student is expected to demonstrate competency in writing a lead paragraph, using transition words, listing paragraphs in a logical order, and writing summative concluding paragraphs. Like I said earlier, it's best to provide a sample piece of writing for students to reference from. This checklist demands much more than the previous one. This checklist could also be scaffolded. On this page of the same checklist, the student is expected to demonstrate competency in flow elements, including the use of sensory details like smell and touch, figures of speech, and descriptive language. On this final page, the student is expected to demonstrate competency in the standard areas of writing, punctuation, and grammar. To get a student off to a good start, like I said earlier, it would be helpful to scaffold the task by requiring the student to complete certain sections of the checklist at first. In this slide, you'll see what this checklist is, what I call an advanced beginner. The assignment is for the student to write an argumentative essay. The key areas of writing are similar to the previous checklist. However, this is a nonfiction assignment and requires analytical thinking. This checklist could be the basis for a report on a real issue that is important to the student. The teacher could scaffold this assignment by focusing on one part of the checklist at a time. The culminating activity could be the presentation of an in depth essay. And that's the last page of the checklist for the argumentative essay. So, a checklist should assess what the teacher has taught and wants to measure, be scaffolded based on the skills of the student, be modeled after a sample piece of writing. This sample should be given to the student for reference.